Hello there. Welcome to this episode of Force Ghost Conversations. This is your host, Anthony King, and this week I'm going to discuss the fourth episode from the Book of Boba Fett titled The Gathering Storm with our guest, Mercedes Gleason, co-host of the Chat Disney podcast. Before we get started, I'm inviting you to join the conversation with us. We can be found on Twitter at Force Ghost Pod. You can also follow us now on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok just by searching Force Ghost Conversations. We look forward to connecting with you on those platforms. Also, please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your listening site of choice. And without further ado, it's time to gather around the campfire for some Force Ghost Conversations. Okay, everyone, we are back. And as I alluded in the preamble, my discussion of the fourth episode of the Book of Boba Fett with our guest Mercedes will be taking place later on in the episode. But first, let's get into some of the Star Wars news that has taken place over the past week in our segment known as Cloud City Gossip. So first, we finally got a release date for the new game Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga. The game will hit stores on April 5th this year, and there's also a brand new trailer release showcasing many of the game's levels and new features. Fans will be able to play through all 9 episodes of the Skywalker Saga through this immersive game. I personally cannot wait to get my hands on this title, as I was a big fan of the early LEGO Star Wars games for both the PS2 and Xbox 360. More to come on that as details are announced. Also, the score for the first 4 episodes of the Book of Boba Fett, done by Ludwig Göransson and Joseph Shirley, has been released by Disney Music. Be sure to give this amazing soundtrack a listen this week wherever you get your music. In addition, The Hollywood Reporter is reporting that actress Mary Elizabeth Winstead has been cast in an unknown role within the upcoming Ahsoka series for Disney+. Lucasfilm has yet to officially confirm this casting, though, so please take this news with a healthy grain of salt. However, The Hollywood Reporter is a trusted news publication which I will believe until I have reason not to. The potential addition of Winstead to the universe is exciting. She has done amazing work in previous films such as 10 Cloverfield Lane, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, and Birds of Prey. As a friendly reminder, then, the Book of Boba Fett will be premiering new episodes each Wednesday for the next couple of weeks here yet. Be sure to check out and support this new Star Wars content, and we hope that you will join us here on Force Ghost Conversations as we break down the entire season. And now, on the other side of this break, we'll have our main topic for today, the discussion of the Book of Boba Fett's 4th episode. And spoiler warning ahead for the Book of Boba Fett, you've been forewarned. So my conversation with Mercedes will be on the other side of this break. Stay tuned. All right, everyone, we are back, and I am so excited to welcome our guest to the show. Welcome to Force Ghost Conversations, Mercedes Gleason. Mercedes, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Anthony. I am so excited for today's topic and to geek out with you about all things Star Wars.
Oh, and the pleasure is all mine. As a aside to where our conversation is going to be here, I am a big fan of your podcast, Chat Disney. So I hope all the listeners at home go check it out afterwards. We'll plug it once we're done with our conversation here. But the honor is truly, truly mine. And you are also the first guest on the show that is not my wife. So this is wonderful.
Brilliant. Good. Finding all those female Star Wars fans. There's not that many of us.
Well, the numbers grow and grow every day. So we're happy to share all voices and opinions here on Force Ghost Conversations. And let's get started with our conversation here. I wanted to just start with some initial questions about your Star Wars fandom and how you got into Star Wars before we get into this week's episode of the Book of Boba Fett. So I really just want to start out from the beginning. What is your first Star Wars memory? And how did you even get into Star Wars in the first place?
I absolutely love this question because there's often a story when it comes to me and my experiences and that sort of thing. And this is a pretty good one. So I resisted Star Wars for as long as I can remember. I think a lot of people that I know that are really into Star Wars kind of grew up with it. Maybe their father was really
Hmm.
into the original trilogy. So they kind of, imposed it on them, which is definitely what happened with me and Disney animation. But anyway, I managed to avoid Star Wars for a super long time. And then I met my husband. Obviously, he wasn't my husband at the time. He
Hmm.
was my boyfriend, and he got really sick. He had really bad tonsillitis. Really
Okay.
awful. Yeah, it was bad. And he was so ill that he couldn't talk. He was just lying in bed, feeling sorry for himself. And all he wanted was to watch A New Hope. That was it. That was the only thing that he said would make him feel better. So, me being, the loving, caring girlfriend that I was back then, I agreed. And we watched the first three films. And do you know what? I didn't hate them. I actually surprised myself. And this was around the time that we were getting ready for The Force Awakens. So that stuff was all starting to gear up. So naturally, it made sense for me to watch the next three and then
Hmm.
go to the cinema with him to watch The Force Awakens. And before I knew it, I had been brainwashed and accepted into the cult.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm super sorry to hear that your husband had to go through that experience. But if that's what it takes to get you into Star Wars, then I guess it was just fate. It just happened to be so, and I'm glad that you enjoyed it, and I hope that it gave him some solace at the same time too, to make the illness a little easier to manage at that time. But it sounds like it was a great experience getting into that, and we talked about we didn't get into this yet, but a natural progression from this point on is, what is your favorite Star Wars movie? And who would you say is your favorite character from that?
Do you know what? I my first reaction to that question is The Force Awakens because it was the first one that I saw in the cinema, and I think
Mm,
all Star Wars fans can resonate with that feeling. Going to the cinema to watch a brand new Star Wars movie is super super exciting. I'm massively into Disney, and obviously it was the first Disney one as well, which I'm sure we'll talk about today. So there
yeah.
was that side of it as well. There's a lot of characters in it that I love. I love Finn. I love BB-8. But you know what? I think if I had to actually pick my favorite movie just as a movie, I would go for Rogue One.
Really
Yeah,
interesting.
I
I love
would.
that choice.
Yeah, I don't know. I think for me, I always felt a little bit, like a fake fan with the old movies because I came to them
Mm,
so much later in life. And it really bridges the gap for me between the old and the new and makes me appreciate the sacrifice of the rebels so much more and just, yeah, look at it from a totally different perspective. I think it's grittier than the other movies as well, which I love. I think it's got really talented acting. I really like Rogue One.
wow. I love that answer. Is there a character within that movie that was a big standout for you that you to this day, is your favorite?
I mean, I really like the robot that's voiced by Alan Tudyk. Is it K9?
K2SO.
Yeah, I love the sass, right? That's
Yeah.
brilliant. But it's a weird one. You don't really get attached to them because you kind of know their fate, I guess,
Hmm.
which
Hmm.
is kind of weird, but also why it's kind of appeals to me and why I say it's a bit darker and a bit grittier. So yeah, I'd say that the robot character is probably the standout for me.
Awesome. He's my wife's favorite character from that movie too, and I'm glad that we'll be able to get to see some more of him in the upcoming Andor series on Disney Plus. So,
Yes.
story characters might die, but we can always go backwards in time and explore their histories even more. So that's
Yep.
the benefit of
Flexible.
having all these different stories in the Star Wars universe to explore.
Absolutely.
Okay, Mercedes, you are, as I alluded in the preamble here, you are a co-host for the Chat Disney podcast, which is primarily a Disney-centered podcast. Therefore, I want to get your perspective on when Disney acquired Lucasfilm. What was your initial reaction when this first happened in 2012?
Hey, it's a weird one. I wasn't into Star Wars, and
Hmm.
then Disney acquired Star Wars, and I kind of got into it. And then Marvel was something I wasn't particularly interested in. And then Disney worked their magic on Marvel as well. And somehow I'm a fan. So I'm all for it. I think that it's an interesting one. So my co-host and I, Tash, who I do the podcast with, we have very differing opinions on this, and she gets quite frustrated, and she sees, I don't know, Spider-Man, let's say, walking around Disneyland, and it stresses her out. She feels it's out of place. I'm of
Okay.
the complete opposite opinion in that I cannot control this. It's going to happen. I may as well embrace it and find out as much as I possibly can about this franchise, the characters, their stories, so that when I go to Galaxy's Edge or Avengers Campus or whatever it may be, I understand those little Easter eggs and those little homages to the movies. And I think that it would just make your Disney trip so much less enjoyable, I guess, if you were in that environment, not really understanding who people are, what their purpose is, and that sort of thing. So I embrace it. I just think, great, more IP to put in parks. That's how I see it.
More IP to put in parks. That's a great way to look at it. Good perspective. More characters to meet and greet.
This is it,
More.
right?
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's a great segue into my next question here, actually, which is, even before the purchase, Star Wars had a long history with the Disney company, being featured in the parks across the globe. And I want to get your experience. I want to hear about your experiences with Star Wars at the Disney parks. I know Star Tours has been a ride at least Disneyland, Disney World. I'm not sure about around the world, but I know that their influence is felt across the galaxy, or Earth, as I should say at this point. I want to get to your experiences. What experiences in the parks have you had with Star Wars?
Yeah, so Star Tours did make it overseas, and I want to say it was an opening day attraction at Disneyland Paris. It's certainly been there since the early 90s
Nice.
because I fondly remember going on that attraction as a little girl. And it's weird. My mum does not like Star Wars, which probably explains why it wasn't a part of my childhood. But Star Tours is her favorite Walt Disney attraction of all time and has been for as long as I can remember. She loves it. She loves the chaos. She loves like just the insanity of it and how it's just like this wild ride, and like this droid is just completely lost control. Like she just thinks it's hilarious and has no context of who anything is or where you are or anything, which is brilliant. So yeah, I think that's also one of the reasons why it was probably easier for me when Lucasfilm was acquired by the Walt Disney Company, because to me, it's always been there. I don't remember a time where Star Wars wasn't in the Disney parks.
Mhm.
And, I have a memory of being about 8 or 9 and a stormtrooper actually chasing me around Discoveryland, which is like Tomorrowland in Disneyland Paris. I remember being really frightened because there was like a bunch of them chasing my cousin and I. So yeah, I think about Star Wars in Disney parks very fondly, and certainly in Disneyland Paris, it's pretty much always been there. So it doesn't feel any different.
Wow, this is fascinating. I'm just amazed that it's your mom's favorite ride.
True. My mum really likes the C3PO character because she
Mhm.
finds him like quite buffoon like and just chaotic. And so, yeah, that's really the only thing about Star Wars that she really even knows.
Oh, well, I'm thrilled to hear that she has some avenue into the Star Wars galaxy that is hers, and she can enjoy the ride as much as she wants whenever you go to Disneyland Paris. So, one
Exactly.
last question about Star Wars in general, before we dive into the Book of Boba Fett. And in a recent Chat Disney episode, you talked extensively about the Wookiee cookie. Could you explain this wonderful treat for our audience?
Absolutely. And I will just caveat this with the fact that I am, obviously, my accent gives it away, I am British. And Disneyland Paris is the park closest to home. Disneyland Paris is also the park of all of the parks that I've been to, which is a few now, that has the worst food and the worst snack choices. So
Hmm.
when I do find a good snack at Disneyland Paris, it's a very exciting event. It's not as easy as being in California and Walt Disney World, where there's abundance of delicious snacks. So the Wookiee cookie was something I was very, very happy to stumble upon. It's essentially a cookie sandwich, and it's two kind of chocolate shortbread cookies that look like Chewbacca, and they're sandwiched together with a chocolate hazelnut, almost Nutella kind of filling.
Hmm.
And it is delightful.
Oh, I mean, I want, as soon as I was listening to the episode and you described it, I immediately was thinking about getting on a flight to Paris to get some myself. I don't know if it's available anywhere else in the world. Maybe Florida, which would be a bit closer to me and less expensive of a flight. I don't even know if I'm allowed into France at this point. Um, but maybe one day I would love to get a
Yeah.
Wookiee cookie.
Well, I'm hoping to go to Disneyland Paris in 2 months' time, fingers and
Hmm.
toes and everything crossed. So, yeah, maybe I can find one and post it to you. I'm not sure how well it would travel.
It's the thought that counts that really matters there. Well, I think we're now ready for our discussion of Chapter 4 of the Book of Boba Fett. And spoiler warning to anybody at home who hasn't seen the episode, pause this podcast now, go watch the episode, then come back. You've been forewarned. So anything after this point is fair game for all spoilers. Book of Boba Fett. And the episode, well, I really want to start about your overall theories and ideas so far of how the series is going. What is your what are you thinking right now about the Book of Boba Fett, Mercedes?
Well, I'm not one to hold my tongue or mince my words, so I will speak freely.
Fair
I'm
enough.
I'm quite bored, to be
Okay.
honest with you, Anthony. It's quite slow, isn't it?
That is your opinion. You're allowed to have it. I would say I find I actually really appreciate the series and I love it, but I'm interested to hear your part. I think I see the vantage point too. I mean, there's a lot of exposition and backstory, and I think they're building to these last. I think there's a 7 episodes in the season. I think they're building up to the last 5, 6, 7 episodes just being a straight on, all out battle action, all out stuff. And I think these episodes are going to build up. And when you have the full season in hand, you're going to be able to like go back and watch it and recontextualize those earlier episodes in a bit way, but in a different way. But I think I can really see your point coming through there. But please go on. I'm interested more.
No, I like your perspective actually, and it's kind of reminiscent of Game of Thrones and how you'd have seven
Absolutely. Yeah.
episodes of filler, and then you'd have episode 8, episode 9, and then episode 10 would always be very climatic or whatever. So maybe that's the direction that they're going in. I feel that maybe you're optimistic. I hope that I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that it has a big dramatic crescendo of a finale, and all of this patience that we have shown pays
Hmm.
off. But at the moment, I am finding it a little slow.
Well, I like that connection you've already made to Game of Thrones, and it's something that when I watch the show with my wife, and we're just dissecting all the different aspects of it. This show really has, in my opinion, a lot of Game of Thrones influences in it, such as like the political intrigue of like all the different people that are ruling certain sections of the city that Boba is kind of overseeing and helping rule at this point. So it's just fascinating to see like this different kind of approach to Star Wars in a way that I think is very much influenced by the television series of the last couple of years, a la like a Breaking Bad, a Game of Thrones, and now we're getting that in the Star Wars soup, so to speak, and they're mixing it around and seeing what happens. And I'm hoping that the last couple of episodes will be stellar for you here. The creative team of Favreau and Filoni behind the scenes, I think, have earned their chops to this point with their various dealings in the Disney company. So I'm going to trust them until I have reason not to.
That's kinder than me and my cynicism. We'll put it down to me being British, and see if I can get away with it that way. But no, you're right. I guess innocent until proven otherwise.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, let's get into this episode a bit more here. And there are Boba. Actually, let me retract that a little bit here. Let's talk about Boba as a character for a little bit here first. He's notorious for only having about 5 minutes or so of screen time in the original trilogy, and with that, what were your thoughts about this character going into this series when it was announced? Did you have any like initial like positive or negative reaction towards it when you watched it, the original trilogy, for the first time? Did you have any like initial like was the character standout for you? I'm intrigued to know your perspective on this.
So for me personally, no. And I did not understand. So my husband is like really, really into Star Wars. So he kind of, he gives me all of the context while we're watching things. Even now, he's like, oh, remember that bit in the original,
Hmm.
even the first scene of the Book of Boba Fett, he's reminding me the last time we saw Boba and how, how it's all linking together.
Yeah.
And he told me, Boba Fett's a big deal. Like, he's got this big cult following. Like, people are really excited by this character. And I was so confused coming to this franchise later in life and being like, but he's literally in it for a few minutes and doesn't do anything that impactful or exciting. Like, I don't get it. And he was like, well, it's just a thing. And at the time I was working at a marketing agency with a lot of graphic designers, and a bit of a
Mm.
stereotype, but these graphic designers were all really into Star Wars as well.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. You've never heard of a graphic designer liking Star Wars before?
I mean, that's not a stereotype that I've been aware of.
Really? Oh,
No.
I've worked with a lot of graphic designers, so maybe that's why. But yeah, they like one of them had a Boba Fett figure on his machine, on his computer,
Oh,
and
fascinating.
yeah, like it is a thing, right? It's this just he was just a bit of a cult hero for
Hmm.
I don't know what reason. I'm sure there is a rationale behind the trend, but I was aware of that. And then obviously when I found out that the series was coming, I was hugely excited because it's just, I love when the Walt Disney Company, whether it be Lucasfilm or the MCU or whoever, when they listen to the fans and then they give us what we want. And I thought this was a really lovely and poetic way to honor this character who is so beloved and obviously made his appearance in The Mandalorian. That was hugely exciting. And I
Mm.
thought that would kind of be it. But then to find out that no, we're doing a whole series, loved The Mandalorian, was a huge, huge fan. So I was really excited about this concept.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, it's a interesting like history of how this character became so popular. He sold the most action figures back in the day, just because I guess the cool look of the character just and the maybe in this case the limited amount of screen time worked in his case. Like it was a less is more type deal where it allowed children of the time to just play with their action figures and create the story around Boba Fett, as opposed to it being told on screen and then you're forced into this box of this is what Boba Fett is and what isn't Boba Fett. So maybe that is it. I also had the similar mindset that you did into this, where it's like he only had about 5 minutes, and Han just kind of pushes him into the Sarlacc pit, and that's it. And there's a burp sound when he goes into the into the Sarlacc pit. And I agree with you 100%. That Mandalorian reintroduction of Boba was phenomenal. That took the character from about a fun Star Wars character all the way up to the top tier level and made him really excellent in my opinion. So I was I mean, if you'd have told me that they were going to do a Boba Fett series 10 years ago, I'd have been like, oh, okay. But as soon as that came out of the season finale of The Mandalorian, that they announced that they were going to do something, I said, okay, give me that now.
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? How and we're seeing it all the time, as I say, with Disney really listening to the fans and finding these little niche pockets the only way I can describe it is these characters that have got like a cult following. And we've
Hmm.
just found out that we're getting a Hocus Pocus 2 now after like 20 years, and that's come from this huge surge in people that are obsessed with the Hocus Pocus movie. But it wasn't a hugely popular film at the time, and then just through merchandise and those characters being available to meet and greet at parks and so on, it's like, oh hey, there's a demand for this. And that's exactly what I think has happened with the Book of Boba Fett. They've seen that there's demand, but I'm here for it. I think it's really exciting.
Absolutely, and great connection to the Hocus Pocus, I guess, franchise now.
Well, yeah, more than one of them.
Very much looking forward to that movie coming out next October, only on Disney Plus. Um, so let's get to the next question here. And this is really where we're getting into the episode now, the nitty gritty of it all. And the episode starts with a flashback, which has been pretty standard for the Book of Boba Fett this far in the series. How is this dual storytelling method working for you, or isn't it working for you?
I actually really like it. The episode with the Sand People, that was my favorite episode. I think it was episode 2.
Yes, episode 2.
That was my absolute favorite, and I really like the Sand People are characters that really fascinate me. I'm quite like obsessed every time they come on screen, whatever it is, whether it's a film, a series, whatever. If I see them, I'm instantly hooked because, and it's such a strange thing. Again, I think it comes from not growing up with Star Wars and seeing it later in life. I can't understand if they're wearing masks or if that's like their teeth.
Yeah, I think it's a mask.
I do too, right?
Yeah.
But I just felt like ages was like that. I just couldn't make out what they even were. So finding this narrative that humanized them, like I absolutely loved that. And actually looking at episode 4, and I'm sure we'll come on to talk about this, but some of Boba's intentions, I really think that not only was the sort of flashback with the Sand People really transformative of the way that we think about them and the way that we empathize with them, but it also gave so much more of a compassion really for Boba. And like, he's lost his family, right, at this point. So I think it really, and that's what I think the purpose of the sort of dual storytelling is doing. It's giving a backstory to provide motive, to provide intention, and I'm here for that. I do find that if something's really exciting is happening, like in the present day, and then he goes in that tank and you're like, oh great, here we go again. And I think this is where I say about like the slowness. Sometimes I want him to stay in the dream, and then sometimes it's like, no, this is boring, go back to your real life.
Sure.
So it kind of ebbs and flows, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really digging the flashbacks too. I don't know if you've seen any episodes of the TV series called Arrow, about the DC Comics superhero, or I guess hero. I don't know. He doesn't really have powers. He's the Green Arrow, and it does a similar thing where he's stranded on an island for 5 years, and each episode does like in the present and then in the past too.
Nice.
And he kind of learns a lesson in both, like a lesson in the past that influences what he does in the future.
Yeah.
And I kind of get that vibe a lot from what's going on here. So that's kind of the baggage that I'm bringing into that, so to speak, when it comes to that. So I'm always looking for like, where are these connections that he's learning in the past that are influencing what he is doing now. And a lot of that is learning what is a family. What does it mean to take care of someone else? What does it mean to be a part of something larger than yourself? What does it mean to give trust and respect to others around you? And it's just really fascinating to see how much that. I mean, it seems like it's a little bit of time based on the screen time that we have with the character in these flashbacks, but that in canon, that must have been years that he was with the Tuskens, actually.
Yeah.
So you can really see this imprint that this guy has changed from being this lone bounty hunter to now being this head of a family, so to speak, because they keep bringing it up frequently in the series.
Definitely.
Well, I'm glad that. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
That's okay. I was gonna say it almost reminds me a little bit of The Mandalorian as well, when he
Yes.
joins the community, and like there's so many parallels between those two characters, which I really like as well. And yeah, I think that there's a lot of you just feel sorry for them, and it's
Mm,
it's odd, right, that these, like, essentially a bounty hunter, which is a character that's not depicted as a very nice person, but
not at all. No.
you feel so much sympathy and empathy for the character.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I want to dive into that a bit more later on here. In the episode, we also got to see Boba's side of the story from when he saved Fennec Shen in The Mandalorian. So we're getting a little bit of the universe is colliding in on itself here in a way. Um, but why do you think he decided to save her?
That's a very good question, and I think somewhere he's grown a conscience, and I
Mm,
think it is from his time being out with the Sand People.
yeah.
And I think that, yeah, there's just more humanization within him and more of
Mm.
a conscience. I hope that's the reason. I hope it's not for some other, like, ulterior motive. But I believe that there's more of a compassion within him now.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely look at it from the perspective of he needs muscle. He needs hired hands to help him out to achieve his goals. But we've talked about this from his time with the Tuscans. He's growing as a person. He's knowing that you just can't do it all on your own. You have to have others to lean on and help. And to only get better as a person, as a group, and have everyone be successful, you can't just do it alone.
Yeah.
And
And that's
there's
coming across with the way that it's growing in terms of, like, the teenagers, the kind of mod wannabes with the
yeah,
bikes and everything, right? Like it's just growing constantly.
definitely, definitely. And it shows his compassion along the way too, right? He would have probably never have. He would have just walked over the body, right? From what I understand of the character previously, and now that he actually stopped and saved her, um, it's really impactful, and it's great to see Fennec Shan get her due in this episode. I know that's been a very valid criticism and complaint from fans over the last couple of episodes that she really hasn't had a whole lot to do other than saying, "Let me kill that guy." Um, and it's great to see Ming Na Wen, Disney legend in her own right, get some more screen time and be much more of a vital part of the Star Wars universe.
Oh, absolutely. I was beyond excited by her appearance in The Mandalorian, as I'm sure you can imagine. Any Disney princesses in anything, and I'm here for it.
Absolutely, absolutely. More Mulan and things. And she actually, I think she has the trifecta now, right? She's been
Yeah,
Mulan. She was in Marvel, technically in Marvel with Agents of
yeah.
Shield, and now Star Wars, and
There you
technically
are.
the live action Mulan too.
There you go. She's crossed into every universe.
She just needs to get into a Pixar film, and then she's done it all.
She's done. Yeah.
Great. Well, this particular episode is also riddled with rich, fantastic action sequences. And was there a particular moment that was your favorite?
I think, I mean, to my original point about it being slow, I was really thankful for the action sequences.
Yeah.
It did feel a little bit more fast paced. But that said, I mean, I'm going back to episode 2 again. The tenderness of that has still resonated with me. So I don't know what I want. I'm saying I want fast action sequences and I want it to be faster paced. And then we got that from episode 4. But
Hmm.
then I do like the narrative and the storytelling that we've seen through the flashbacks and so on. So, yeah, I don't know that I have a particular favorite moment from episode 4, but I think just it felt like it stepped up a notch in terms of the action, and hopefully that is a foreshadowing for your theory that that's what this whole series is building towards, because it definitely felt just a very different tempo to the previous episodes, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. Fingers crossed on that front. I think for me, if I had to pick one particular action sequence from this episode, it would have been of course, when he tries to get his ship back from Jabba's palace, Bib Fortuna's palace now technically, and he has that fight sequence with the droids and the chef droids, I guess is what they would call them. There's like a chef droid and a sous chef droid, which is first off blows my mind that those exist in Star Wars. I need those right now to help me cook my dinner every night. The droid with those scissor hands basically would be great at chopping up some vegetables and getting the perfect cut of meat together for me there. I like that whole sequence, and when he's chasing that little droid throughout the kitchen was really cool, and it reminded me a lot of Jurassic Park because there's that similar sequence with the Velociraptor chasing the kids around. So that kind of gave me some flashbacks to that a little bit.
Nice.
Yeah. So we also got some more time with the Wookiee gladiator bounty hunter known as Black Chrysanthemum, and he's been a true standout for the series and for the show. And as a fan of Chewbacca, our old pal, what do you think of this vastly different character from the same species?
I mean, he's terrifying. Like, actually so
Literally.
intimidating and scary. And like, I know that Chewbacca, like the first time we see Chewbacca in that awful Solo film, he's meant to be like a gladiator fighter or something, and Han was meant to fight him or something like that. So we have seen moments in which Wookiees, I mean, well, let's face it, Han uses him for muscle as well, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm. He sure does.
He's such a nice, I mean, I don't know why I think this, he literally can't talk, but I just think he's such a nice, kind and gentle soul, and is probably one of my favorite Star Wars characters of all time. Those of you that have listened to the podcast, Anthony, you'll be familiar with this story. I queued for like 3 hours in January in France to meet Chewbacca because I'm that committed. So I was excited about, a new Wookiee, but he's really intimidating. There's something, I mean, obviously this character's been created like, 40 years after we first see Chewie. So there are technological advancements that can be made to his physical appearance, but he looks so human as well, which I think adds to the terror. But yeah, I'm interested to see how the character adapts. I think we know what's going to happen. He's going to become like the gentle giant, like Chewbacca. I'm almost 100% sure. But at first glance, very scary.
Honestly, you hit that on the nail there. There are some relatable human tendencies to this character, and it all stems from those eyes.
Yes.
They zoom in on those eyes a lot, and you can get so much of a story just from that alone.
Definitely.
Yeah, he's a wild one, and him in that like bar sequence there towards the end, ripping off the guy's arm. Whoo,
Yeah.
That's a nightmare. That's a nightmare.
Yeah, I think we will. I do think he'll have the same arc as Chewbacca in that he'll become, a companion to Boba Fett and a confidant, I hope.
Yes,
but
yes.
At the moment, I'm just so scared every time he's on screen.
Yeah, and I think Boba, if I can speculate at this point, which it all is at this moment, I think they might have a respect for each other, right? I think Boba might be that one to extend the olive branch, so to speak, and be that kind of helper, that guider, that transitions him from this like bounty hunting, grizzled, tough world to becoming a part of a family.
Yeah.
Something that he obviously hasn't been a part of for quite some time. And poor Garza Fwip did that wonderful speech to try and calm him down. It was very reminiscent of the Avengers movies where Black Widow tries to sing the lullaby to Hulk, much to no avail at the same time. But it's very. I'm glad that these characters exist, and we're gonna get a whole, literally a new array of stories with these characters in this time, and I'm fascinated to see how this plays out in the future.
Oh, definitely. And for me personally, I really love it when we see more characters that are the same species, because a critique of Star Wars that I have is like, okay, why are there so many more humans than other characters?
Yes. Yeah.
And so being on Tatooine and seeing like R2 units and like, I don't know what a C3PO character would, a CP unit, I don't know what they're called, but
I think it would just be a protocol droid.
Okay, yes, that would be the, gosh, yes, you're correct. But seeing one of those as well, and it's like I like it when you see more of the same. I want more Ewoks, more Wookiees, because it's there can't be that many humans. They outnumber all of the other species very much. So I'm pleased that we're getting more of the same.
Mercedes, you hit that right on the nail. I too want more Ewoks. I want more Wookiees. I want more of it. Give me the small teddy bears, the big teddy bears. Give it all.
That's it.
I just want to ask a follow up question while we're on this topic. So,
Yeah.
when you met Chewbacca, did you happen
Yeah.
to get a hug by? Did you go in for a hug?
I did. And do you know what? The best part was, and I didn't know this until I got there, until I got to the front of the queue, Chewie could talk. And
Mm,
that changed it for me. That made it worth the wait. I've got a
wow.
fantastic video of Chewie and I'm freezing. You can tell my nose is bright red. And I'm like, say hi, Chewie. And he's like, yeah. It's yeah, that was honestly the highlight. I went with 4 girlfriends and they were on rides, having hot chocolate, doing whatever, and they left me.
Well, if there's a person you're going to stand in line to meet for in January, I feel like it's the walking carpet rug that is Chewbacca to go in for a hug, and it'll be worth it in the end. That'd be worth it
Yeah,
in the end.
absolutely. But no, it was a great hug. It was worth it, and yeah, he spoke. So what more can you want?
And I caught a little bit that you said there about the solo film, Mercedes. It sounds like you're not too keen on it. We might have you back on a future episode, so I might be able to change your mind on that a bit.
Yeah, I was really excited about that as well because I've mentioned Game of Thrones already, so no surprise, big Game of Thrones fan. Obviously, Emilia Clarke, and I really wanted to love that. And Paul Bettany's the villain, right?
Yes.
So another person that's done the MCU and Star Wars as well. But no, I again, it had all the like key ingredients. Actually, the first time I liked it, but then no.
Maybe we might be able to change your mind one day.
Okay, okay.
I look forward to that conversation.
I'm always
Um,
happy to have a debate about these things.
of course, of course. This is the place to have those conversations. Very healthy. um, great. So let's move on to my next question here. And we finally learned the why for everything that Boba is doing in his crusade here. And from the way that I understood it from this episode, he's tired of being a pawn for inept leaders. And that is something very relatable to the real world. He thinks he can run things better himself. And how does this mission resonate with you? Do you really think he's going to break the wheel?
Hey, I mean, we've mentioned Game of Thrones a bunch of times. Did Daenerys Targaryen change anything? I hope so, but I mean, I think that it's a constant theme within Star Wars, right? Like, there's
Mm-hmm.
the whole reason that we have the rebels in the first instance, and I like to think that they do change things when they abolish the Empire or the First Order or whoever it is that's just putting their tyranny all over the universe. So I mean, if I had to pick someone to do it, I'm not sure that he would be sort of the clean cut person. You'd want a Luke or a
Yeah.
Leia or somebody leading you. So I mean, hey, it's an interesting question. My gut kind of says maybe he'll just be a new kind of tyrant. He's already proving to be quite a difficult character. I'm not really sure he's got like the best interests of the people
Hmm.
at heart. Yeah, I mean, it would be an interesting twist of events if he becomes kind of corrupt as well. So I don't know. I can't say I've given it an awful lot of thought. I would say that his intention is good, but as I said, we all know what happened to Daenerys Targaryen, so maybe it would be interesting for him to become corrupt too.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you on this one. It's super easy to have opinions when you're not one making the decision, right?
Oh yeah.
I think everyone has been in a place where they're in the job where they're like, "Wow, if I was in my boss's shoes, I would have done this, this, and this, and this." When you didn't really have all the information that they did at the time and all the stressors available to him. So yeah, I'm not sure that he's I hope. I mean, the idealist in me that believes that Star Wars is about hope and about achieving the impossible and doing all of that. Like, it certainly is possible, but the probability of that is probably like 90 to 10, maybe. There's a lot of other factors in play here that he wasn't aware of, like all those families and that are controlling the things. He inherited a pretty bad situation, from what I can tell. Bib Fortuna didn't really leave him the best shoes to fill, and it sounds like Jabba didn't really have the best grip on everything to begin with. Yeah, I maybe this will lead to multiple seasons of this show, and this is going to kind of be like the precursor to it, laying all the groundwork and the backstory for everything. But at this point, it's tough to fully see if his end game is going to be realized at this point.
Definitely. And I think that also he's kind of the best option, right? I mean, we're talking
Yeah.
about more of the same in terms of species and that kind of stuff. And those cousins, the Hutts, they were absolutely repulsive. Like, if I thought Jabba was ugly and gross, they were something else. Like, the female one was awful. They made me feel quite ill. So
Yeah.
I think that, yeah, I mean, if it's them or Boba, obviously, you know, the latter is the better option. Not just because of how they look. Obviously, I'm not that shallow. But yeah, I think that, you know, they're just going to be more of the same in terms of more tyranny and evil for sure. So, yeah, I'm pleased that they're out of the picture, and I hope we don't see any more of them.
I don't know. They might be popping back in pretty soon.
They're just so awful.
From a technical standpoint, can I just say how awesome like the digital effects are for this TV series to
Oh,
make them look like that?
yeah, oh my god, like so realistic, and the way that they're being carried in, and like the people are buckling under their sheer weight, and you can see the bed that they're being carried through and how it's dipping in the middle. Like, oh my god. And you know, this is what I say about the Wookiee character as well. So realistic in a way that, you know, Chewbacca just isn't, unfortunately, because he's just older.
Absolutely. And when my first thought was when they in episode 3 when they brought them the twins to like the front of the palace to have their conversation, those poor people had to walk who knows how long in the hot sun
Yeah.
and the
Oh
desert. That was my initial thought, was those poor people underneath.
yeah. Oh no. And they're just really ugly.
No argument there. Well, Mercedes, we've gotten to my last question here. And this show is clearly heading towards a battle in the streets of Mos Espa. At least I think so. Boba needs muscle, and then Fennec suggests that he can hire some muscle. And then the Mandalorian theme plays as the episode ends. How did you react to the scene? What do you think will happen next? And will the Mandalorian join Boba?
Yes, I was very excited. I had a little squeal of excitement. I
Woo!
really hope that Mando comes into the series. It needs him. Honestly, I'm really I'm flaking with the series. I'm waning. I need something additional to convince me to stay with it, and yeah, to enjoy it. So I think Mando's the answer. I mean, hey, you can't put like literally the theme tune and then not. You can't tease that. Like, no,
Absolutely.
it can't happen. I mean, I again, it's kind of reminiscent of bringing it back to Marvel, but with the most recent Spider-Man movie. And I was having a conversation with a colleague who's also really into Marvel, and I was like, "But what if Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire aren't in it? Like, we've all convinced ourselves they're going to be in the film." And he was like, "Look, Mercedes, they have to now. You can't tease us like that. They have to be in it." And I was like, "Okay, I hope you're right." And this is the same thing. You can't tease us like that. He has to be in it. He has to be in it. And that's it. And I'm really excited. And I do think it's going to hopefully transform my relationship with the series thus far. I'm enjoying it, but it needs something for me. And I think he might just be that something.
Yeah, he'll be that thing that is injected into that takes it up to the next level.
Yes, exactly. Like the final scene of The Mandalorian. I mean, nothing will ever beat that. That was like, my husband has this awful quality when we're watching films of realizing what's going to happen like 5 minutes before it does, and having to voice it to me to show me how clever he is. And yeah, as soon as there was movement outside, he turned to me and was like, "It's Luke." And I was like, "If it is Luke, you've ruined it for me." And then it was. And I was like, "Why did you do that? Like, you didn't let me have that little, like, childish moment of wonder because you had to tell me that it was coming. And yeah, the Mandalorian chord started to play and he looked at me and I'm like, oh no, I know, I don't need you to spoil this one, I know what's coming. So no, I'm really looking forward to it. It has to happen. They can't tease us like that.
Yeah, I'm gonna say 100%. They're going all in on this. They're getting the gang back together. This is
Yeah.
the Disney Plus unit. Disney Plus knows its brand, its audience.
Oh
They've
yeah.
cultivated this audience with The Mandalorian over the last 2 years. They know what they're doing. They're connecting the IPs.
Hey, it works for Avengers, right? Like
Yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy has even segued in on that club. So no, it has to be that. And I need more child in my life as well. I don't know what's happening to him. I have a feeling that maybe he will make an appearance in the series. The what's it called? I've forgotten his name. Ewan McGregor, Hayden Christensen.
Oh, Kenobi?
Yes. How did I forget Kenobi? See, I'm a fair weather fan. I've come to it later in life. I will never forget Anakin's name, obviously, huge Anakin stan. And yeah, I think that the child will be in Kenobi. I think
Interesting.
the
I like
timeline
it.
and the Force I just feel that that's where the child will next pop up.
Oh, I like that. I like that. It's a bold prediction.
I was probably wrong, but it's what I feel. I feel it would work, and he is the baby Grogu is one of my favorite characters of all time from anything ever. So
Absolutely. I'll take more Grogu anywhere. He could pop up in the Cassian Andor series and, we'll have a good time. We'll have a great time. Yeah, I mean, it'll be great to see Din Djarin back again, and I hope we get some teases for what The Mandalorian season 3 will look like, which is filming right
yes,
now
oh,
too.
so excited for that. Honestly, Mandalorian, it made me just have so much faith in Disney Plus as well as a streaming service and what it could be. And as you put it, these Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones-esque television series, but with these worlds and these characters that so many people have loved for such a long time. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. I'm really excited about Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor because that is just, I can't even believe that that's real. I'm so excited.
If you'd have told me, 5 years ago that in 2022 I'd have a Matrix film again, I'd have a Hayden Christensen, Ewan McGregor would be reprising their roles in the Star Wars universe. I'd say, what is it, 2002?
Yeah,
Is
literally.
2000 is 20 years repeating itself here? And Tobey Maguire playing
Oh,
Spider-Man again? Like,
I can't. When I tell you, I stood up in the cinema and I screamed, and then realized that nobody else had even so much as clapped, and promptly sat back down in my chair, so embarrassed. Honestly, that was the icing on top of a very horrible cake called COVID, but made it all better.
Well, Mercedes, here at Force Ghost Conversations, never apologize for your fandom. wear it loud and proud on your sleeves, and yeah, it is amazing. Fandom is amazing, and it allows us to connect and just to geek out about all the fun things. So thank you so much for coming on the episode today and to geek out about Star Wars and to hear about your journey with the Star Wars galaxy and to dive deep into this Boba Fett episode. Where can the listeners at home find Chat Disney? Tell us a bit about Chat Disney. How can they find it?
Sure. So, Chat Disney is a podcast that I do with my best friend Tash. We are two British female Disney experts, and we talk about all things from parks and resorts to movies, Disney Plus, and more. And you can find us at chatdisney.co.uk or on Twitter, Chat Disney UK, or Instagram, just Chat Disney.
Absolutely. Chat Disney is a fantastic podcast. They do a great job over there. And you will not regret giving them a listen. Subscribe to them, follow them on Twitter. They're just a fantastic podcast. And you can get all your Disney parks news, Disney Plus news, Disney film news, and reviews over there. They're wonderful. Go check them out. And thanks again, Mercedes. This has been a blast. And we'll look to have you on again in the future to talk about some Kenobi.
Oh, thank you. I'll have to have you over at Chat Disney. My co-host is having a baby, and she hates talking about Star Wars anyway. So, yeah, you'll have to return the favor.
Absolutely. Anytime you need some Star Wars talk, Marvel talk, any Disney talk, I'm here for it all.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.